Hey, I'm Oteil.
And I'm Mike, and welcome to Comes a Time Podcast, episode 2. We have the one and only Bob Weir. Wow, Oteil. This was unbelievable for me.
I know you were trying not to be a fanboy.
I called you in the beginning and it's like, please don't let me be Chris Farley on this episode. Like, do you remember Weather Report Suite? That was awesome. No, to be able to, I watch you up there with them many times, and I see the joy, and I see and it made me so happy to be able to, what a profound. He's so sharp. I think, he's working out a lot of muscles clearly as we see, but I think the muscle that is the strongest still is his mind. I mean, it's just amazing how, what poignant stuff he had and advice for, folks taking part in the protest these days.
Yeah. Just everything in general. He's a great interview and I don't even like to use the word interview. I mean, it's just great he's a great chat. You know what I mean? Like, it's just fun talking with him, and it's like that all the time with him. Stuff really means a lot. What we're thinking and feeling and meaning. It means a lot, especially these days.
Yeah.
But all days. I mean, that was their philosophy. Every day it's right now, and so it was really great to get to talk to him for a good long time, And
I think, not to put the cart before the horse, but I think that this may be the first of a few. He seemed to have a good time with us.
Yeah.
And he was excited to come.
That's
back.
right. He had a suggestion about the next one.
Yeah, which we're going to keep that a surprise. We're going to keep that a surprise because that one, boy, you're going to need a seatbelt for that one. So, everybody enjoy our chat with Bob Weir. Thank you, Bob, for taking the time. And Oteil, thank you, and I love you. And I'll see you at episode 3.
Love you too, man.
Comes a time when the blind man takes your hand, says, "Don't you see?"
Hey, I'm Oteil.
And I'm Mike.
And welcome to the Comes a Time podcast.
And today, it is an absolute honor and pleasure to have with us the one and only Mr. Bob Weir. Hi, Bob.
Hiya.
It's great to see you and meet you. And thank you so much for spending time.
My pleasure is mine. Thank you for your kind attention.
Bob, just to start before we get into, I want to dispel a rumor I saw online that if live music doesn't come back soon, that you're considering throwing your hat in the ring for UFC title. Is that true?
That's a close contact sport too, but it's limited participation, and you kind of get your odds. The odds are more in your favor there.
They pulled off a lot of those UFC things.
I can't believe it.
Yeah, it's amazing. But so how have you been spending your quarantine? Did you do like the rest of us and kind of go nuts at first and then?
Well, I sort of, Christ, it's been a while now. Christ, I have not been home for this long for ever, and or at least since I was a little kid. But I've been sticking with it. I've got a book that I got to make, that I got to work on. I'm working on an opera. I'm working on a big orchestral piece. And I'm also trying to. I've got a little team assembled where we're trying to get it so that we can play live from different separate locations live over the internet, and they're working on the latency problem. Yeah, we're working on the latency problem, and we've just about got it. We're if we're not there, we're almost there. Now we got to see if we can do it. I've been playing with Jay Lane in San Francisco, and that's working. Now I got to be able to now I'm going to try to get it up with Don Was down in Santa Monica.
So wait a minute, you've already got it to where you and Jay can play together live, and you're not having the latency problem.
Yeah, there are still issues that we're working on. The quality of the transmissions and stuff like that is so. But the thing is, for instance, we can record over the system because everybody has their own dedicated recording set up at home, and we can play together and then send the much fatter files that we record at home to put all those together, and you got a record. So and that kind of stuff. And once again, it's everybody's playing together at the same time, so it's not a guy lays down his part and then sends it to somebody else and they lay down their part. It's people influencing each other right now.
Yeah, because it kills the jam. I'm like, how do we jam? You can't jam. Like it kills the whole thing.
Soon come, I think.
Yes.
I do stand-up comedy for a living, Bob, and we've had some shows that people have asked us to do on Zoom, and it's virtually impossible to try to do anything in the moment and tell jokes. And I mean, you end up doing crowd work about someone's couch or their cat standing behind their head, and it's weird. It's a strange new existence that we're in.
Well, I know a couple guys at Zoom, and there is a way that, if you can do this with in front of a great big screen with a bunch of little boxes, you can get 50 of them up there. And so you can be playing to that at least.
Right.
And you can be working that crowd. It's not a packed house. It's not a few hundred or a few thousand folks, but it's enough faces so you can't count them all at once.
Absolutely.
What we really need is everybody to have virtual reality glasses so that it puts us in the venue.
There you go.
Everybody that's watching has it. And then as the performer, we're seeing them in the audience. I guess they would all have to, I don't know.
Well, Oteil, it's funny. I did that. I did stand-up. I did a stand-up show before the pandemic at Gotham Comedy Club in Chelsea in New York City. And right in the front of the stage, they had one of the VR cameras, and everyone at home would put on goggles. And if they looked to their left and right, they were in a seat of a theater next to other avatars. And you would go on stage and do your set. And there was a live crowd there for us, but you could also check out this, people watching in, Israel and France and, Minnesota. It was wild. It was really neat.
That's cool.
Yeah.
Well, we're going to need, the thing is, and we're going to get into this in a little bit. People who don't have the funds to be able to afford all this kind of stuff are kind of left out in the cold, and that's that's something we're going to have to address. I don't know how we get around to this, but we need to this kind of thing right now. If we're all stuck doing our part by staying away from everybody, then how do we get this kind of stuff across to everyone who's doing their part?
That's very true.
Yeah.
That is a question that needs to be answered. Bob, I had a chance to chat with you back in 2002, very quickly backstage. You, Rat Dog, and DJ Logic were playing together in Massachusetts. When I was younger, I got the honor to spend some time with Ken Kesey on his farm in Oregon. And I met him at a Fish concert, and he invited me out to his farm. And I chatted with you real quick about that. And I'm a student of the history of the Grateful Dead and the pranksters and everything. And you said something you said he was so important to all of us, and that Jerry was almost jealous in a way that he had that farm to retreat back to in Oregon. He could step into the limelight and turn the world a little bit and then go back and live a normal life. And that was something that Jerry and you unfortunately really couldn't.
Right. Yeah. Well, Jerry wasn't a farmer, and Ken was.
True. Yeah, that's true too.
I remember reading one essay he did, a lengthy essay he did on basically it was on the Oregon winter. It was I think it was published in, I think it was Esquire or something. Ken Kesey's Bulls, I think was the name of the Ebenezer, and I can't remember the other one's name. And he just Kesey just described what it was like to be a bull in a pasture up in Springfield, Oregon, and make it through a winter, which is just the bleakest. Oregon winters are pretty damn, they're cold and wet, and endlessly so. And Kesey was just a wonderful writer, and he somehow instilled in you this. I'm not sure that I buy it, but this notion that enduring the Oregon winters was worth it for some. And but
not sure I buy it either.
Yeah, I don't know. Yeah, I'll stay in New York. At least we have places to hide here. But it's so cool to. I had a chance to chat with him. I got to meet the guy who seemed to be a big inspiration to my heroes, you guys, and those early acid test days must have been such an unbelievably, profound experience to experience firsthand, like you did.
Well, like I say, I'm writing a book, and I'm just getting to that part right now where I get to dive into that, and it's going to be a little adventure for me because I have to go back there now. I have to see what's stuck around, and also see, what it made of me. And it's about time I actually took a look at it, I guess, because I don't think I ever really did. I just assumed, okay, we made it through the acid tests. What's next? And it's always been a proposition of what's next. And now I have more or less not just a chance, but a sort of a duty, I think, to sort through all that stuff and see what kind of humanity that constructed all that constructed in me, and see if there's a picture there that might be of any value to anyone else.
Oh, there is. I mean, that's why we wanted to have you on the podcast, because the seeing all the events happening today, and I think you guys were alive when all this went down the last time, and I always wonder what you think of it, from that viewpoint. And I'm sure you think, oh, some things we did were mistakes, and some things that are going now, maybe they are not doing that they need to do, or just whatever. It's just, that history. I know you have it in your head. We're glad to have you on to get your perspective on all of it,
I wonder, things happen so fast these days that nobody ever takes time to assess, properly assess what's going on with them, what's going on in general, and make, anything resembling an astute decision about how to proceed. And I wonder if there isn't some, greater consciousness, whether it be the collective unconscious or a God, if there is such a thing, or what, or Gaia, or whatever you want to call it, that's actually sort of saying, hey, everybody chill for a minute and think things over.
Yeah.
Because if you don't, you're going to be pushing up daisies, and it won't, whatever you didn't decide to do or didn't reflect on doesn't matter, because you won't be here.
Yeah.
Yeah. I feel like that too. I feel like Mother Nature, and whatever you want to call it, hit the pause button, like for all the bad things that are going on right now, nature is still getting a break. All these planes aren't in the air and all that, there's a time of healing, and and so I think it's like you say, it seems like it's across the board. Like we're forced to stop now and assess and reassess and talk, clearly march, do all these things, and I think it's a good thing,
It's everybody's sort of online, so everybody's still sort of communicating, but a lot of the frenzy that goes on, or a lot of the shopping, a lot of the running around doing errands and stuff like that is sort of diminished a bunch, and so everybody has to put some thought to everything that's going on. Yeah. And that's what that's, if there's anything that separates us from the rest of creation, is the fact that we can think things through.
Double-edged sword.
The possibility that some of the larger primates or elephants or dolphins also think things through, but we haven't broken through the communication barriers to be able to figure that out yet. So as far as we know, we're the only ones who think about things, and
we're really the only ones that commit genocide. So thinking it that far, like.
I wonder if, for instance, the before humans became the number one predators on Earth, wolves were the number one predators on Earth, and there is some evidence to support the contention that they committed genocides
on other wolves.
Just hunting all the stuff that was easiest to get, and so whether it be a particularly slow kind of rabbit or something like that. So that was evolution at work.
But that was still need. That was still need driven. Like we're hungry. Oops, we ate it all. It's not like we all have what we need, but you guys need to all die and not be on the planet anymore. That's a different level.
Is there some sort of need there? And is that need real? And, these are this kind of stuff that we kind of have to sort out, I think.
Well, and that's also like you made a good point that like with everything on pause, it's like you have to stop. My wife is an intensive care. She's a nurse practitioner, and she, throughout the entire first wave of this pandemic, anxiety is a thing that one saving grace about anxiety is you can remind yourself that it's fake, that it's imaginary, and it's all in my head. But then when life becomes what you're worried about, and seeing her leave for work every day and come back and just be dead tired from working on saving people's lives, you go through that fear, you exist and live in it, and now you look back on it and go, what did I take from it? Kind of similar to what you were talking about with the acid test. It's like the things that, who am I now looking back, and what did I take from it? And, through conversations with friends, other performers, our lives are very different and very changed, maybe forever with this. Travel is never going to be the same. And the way that we see our loved ones, and everything has been turned a couple degrees. And now we have to kind of step back and look at, I agree with you. It's all very like profound and thought provoking.
Yeah. Right. And also there are people who are, it appears at least as though there are people who are dead set against taking this moment's pause. And in those places where there are substantial numbers of those people, COVID is going through the roof.
That's terrible.
And so maybe there's a picture there that they'll begin to see.
I sure hope so. Those were the folks that were looking at New York and going, oh, it's not real. It's only in New York. It's a New York disease. And now they're, we're sending nurses there. I had the chance to, doing stand-up, I've had the honor of performing in a lot of rooms that you guys have performed. I got to do Radio City Music Hall. I got to do Nassau Coliseum. Had the chance though to do a very special. I did Hampton Beach Casino Ballroom, which I know is a special place for you in particular because Rat Dog was there. That was the day you found out about Jerry's passing.
Right. Yeah.
I was able to talk with the owners of the club. I walked in for a sound check with a Grateful Dead shirt on, and they were like, "You want to see something cool?" And they kind of talked me through, that experience and how you were there and everything. And I've had that tape. I wore that tape out of you guys playing for a couple times, and I just wanted to, I think about who stepped on the wood of the stage before I go on, no matter where I am.
Right. Yeah.
And just thinking about the fact that you had that heavy weight on your shoulders playing that night. I mean, it was really special to be in that room. And I just wanted to, do you remember that evening? Do you remember that?
Oh, quite, quite well, yeah. I was, I guess, a bit in shock. But at the same time, I don't tend to think of death as particularly final. And I also, if I'm going to be sad, that's my business, because really death is a liberation. My view of things is that death is the last and best reward for a life well lived. And because death is where the adventure starts, as far as I can see.
Sounds pretty cool.
You've just been sort of messing around in this existence, and you get to the more to the essence of it when you leave behind your mortal trappings, and so, given all that, I tend to celebrate death for my loved ones, particularly as liberation. And so, I look forward to dying. One of these days, I'm gonna get around to it. And
it'll take your time.
But, I've got a lot of stuff to do to get ready to do that. And so there was that, and at the same time, I was, naturally, I was real sad to have my old pal out of here. And I knew that I was going to miss a lot of the laughs, though I haven't really missed them that much, because they come back to me in dreams, or old Jared's, he's around.
Oh yeah.
He shows up in dreams and stuff like that. Real instructive sometimes, and I kind of knew that evening that was the way it was going to be now. But everything was slightly different. But every day things change. So what the hell?
Yeah. I just, when you think about that moment, and we all kind of dealt with it the way Oteil and I were actually talking before we got on with you about how, I grew up, I found the Grateful Dead through my dad's records, and records were the thing that I could communicate with him about. That was the thing we had, was that in college basketball. So I would memorize The Who, and I would memorize Quadrophenia and Grateful Dead albums and Queen and Bowie. And you guys were hanging on my wall when I was growing up. And then, I dealt with Jerry's death in a different way. Oteil, we were talking about, it was almost kind of like, what we talked about, what it felt like Kennedy or something. Like it was just,
well, I wasn't really way into the band at that point, but we were on the jam band scene well into it, so I was still learning about it. And, so when on the jam band scene, Jerry dying was like Kennedy getting assassinated. Everybody I knew and knew of in the scene, it was just so heavy, so even from my perspective, I remember the gravity of it, it was something.
Yeah, it sure was.
Bob, you said something that I think is really, I'm so glad that you said it because we have this thing that we talk about, which is in the Pranksters, Grateful Dead, it's almost a dogma, about staying in the moment, and it's hard for comedians, musicians, or just living in general to do that when the critic is always over your shoulder going, you're and so we talk about, trying to silence the critic helps you to stay in the moment, and whether it's maybe LSD is good for that, microdosing or whatever.
Exercise.
But what you said, I think, is really the key. You said, I'm getting ready for my death. Like, I'm looking forward to my death, and all this work I'm doing is getting ready for that so that it will be a relief for a life well lived. And I thought, that's the perfect way to silence the critic. Go away. I'm getting ready for my death, man.
Right. I got bigger fish to fry.
That's amazing. Yeah.
Thank you for that, Bob. That's such a huge thing for, I know, just me and Mike personally. I'm like,
Bob, you know what?
My brain just went.
Yeah, I think you did get something out of the acid tests. That's if it's just that. Yeah, that's unbelievable.
Done that. You've always I that's why I find it fascinating. Like, you hitting this stage in life where it's like, that was the thing to do. We were talking with Mountain Girl about Kesey. It was about, this is the work of art right now, what we're living this moment. And so, but at some point you're going to get to a stage like you're at, Bob, where you're like, okay, now I got to look back. Now the now is looking back and assessing, like, well, where did I write? That's really heavy. That's cool.
Is it hard to write a book about yourself?
No, because I just take a step back and, my entire, or at least the last 30, 40 years of my career, I've been learning to just simply by finding out what works and what doesn't. I've been learning to take a step back and in fact just disappear if I can, and let the character in the song tell his or her story. I'll go back to a dream I had a few months ago now. Jerry came to me in the dream, and he wanted to introduce a song to me. He wanted to show me this song that he had just met, because the point he was making is a song is a living organism, and it comes and visits, and you can hang with it and all that kind of stuff. You can interact with it, and then the song comes in the room, and the song was, it was a jazz ballad, and we were going to sing a duet on it. And the song itself comes into the room, and it's like a room-sized sort of ethereal, something like an old English sheepdog. It came up and sniffed me, and I batted it a little bit, and it snapped at me, and we had a little tussle, and got to know each other, and the way I am with pets, and he was that way. It was playful, and and then we sort of eased into the song, and we were singing it. I don't remember the song. I wish I could. I can't quite put maybe it'll come to me at some other time. But there we were doing the song, and so the song was. I can't remember where I got started on this, but the song was. I learned in that dream that it's something that I had suspected for a long time, but it finally became real clear to me that a song is a living critter. And if you write a song, you're basically being a sort of a midwife. This living critter is coming through from another dimension, another world, and visiting. Well, anyway, so I had suspected this all along, and been operating under that assumption, and so when when I sing a song, I'm not there. The guy you see in front of the microphone is not there. I may look like me, but I'm not. I'm this other guy. Or if I'm playing along, I'm part of the scenery, and I'm trying to express that scenery with my instrument if I'm just playing. If that makes sense.
Yeah, no, absolutely.
It does. I think it happens too, even in just instrumental music, and classical Indian music. They say at a certain point, after so much practice and you're playing and you're in the flow and you're just so in the zone, and then all of a sudden, the way they characterize it is they say your guru takes over. And when they said that, I was like, I remember times when that happened, especially playing with my brother, because we have such we could just hook up so strong, and we would mess up at the same time, play the same thing at the same time. My hands would do things that I did not plan to do on their own.
Right.
And I was like, whoa. And thank God people were taping all our shows, because I had to go back and figure that out sometimes like that. But it's that thing where you step aside, like, so you're not there. Like, you've trained your body to do this thing enough to where you can like exit. You can be right to the left and literally be watching it happen. And you're all connected together with everybody else jamming it. That's the goal,
So when you're singing A Black-Throated Wind, you're singing from the eyes of that hitchhiker.
Exactly.
Yeah, and you can hear that. And, as a fan and as someone who looks deep into the lyrics and looks into the messages, I think the gift that Grateful Dead fans and jam, you guys, there's a absolute, litany of lyrics that you can go to in times that the future is here. We are on our own has been playing over and over in my head since these protests and the COVID and the whole thing. And I think about the lyrics, but also I feel that I've learned a lot about how to live, even as a performer and as a person, with the way that the Dead kind of set that path. You've said some things in interviews, Bob, where it's like, you're asked, like, what did you guys think back then that you were going to have this? And real quick, you go, we didn't think back then. And it's just a freeing, you sidestepping fame and just like, satiating your own goals. Yeah. It's moments like that really, speak to us, I feel, and I'll speak for myself, but it's like beyond that music. It's beyond the song, that it's like coming from guys who really sincerely believe it.
Yeah. Those songs are real. Those people, those characters are real. They exist. They're living critters, and a lot of those living critters are going to outlive us by a long shot. Many times our lifespans, and so you got to come to some sort of respect for them.
Absolutely. Yeah. Certain songs of, various different things. Vincent, the Don McLean song about Vincent van Gogh. Mm-hmm. I heard that recently when you look at a playlist during this quarantine, you can tell the mood that you're in by the songs that you added to your playlist. And it's like, boy, that was a dark time that must have been a day of 3 days of straight rain and a lot of numbers going up, because music does it transfer. I read Kerouac's On the Road 5 or 6 different times in my life. And every time I read it, it means something different to me, and it's just that kind of beauty. That's what music always, it's a living organism. It changes as time goes on. So absolutely.
Yeah. This podcast was probably almost named Throwing Stones, or we went through a bunch of stuff.
Bob, can I ask you a question about your playing style and, you learning a very unique way of playing rhythm and listening to McCoy Tyner and those jazz pianists and how they phrased chords? Do you feel that maybe dyslexia was like a blessing in disguise with the way that you learned in the band that you played in? Because it seems like you found an unconventional way to find rhythm that no one else does.
Well, dyslexia is a huge advantage for me in many regards. It's it forced me to I'm not going to read music, so that's not a move on the board for somebody who's profoundly dyslexic, and so I had to use my ears and listen. And at first, I was copying licks off of records and stuff like that, or tapes. And then when I started playing with folks, I started listening to what they were doing and watching as well, and getting my library of licks up and going, and then somewhere fairly early on, I started listening on another level in real time, where I started using my intuition as well as listening and intuiting where folks were going with what they were doing. And if Jerry or Phil or Keith or Brent or whoever was headed in some direction, okay, I know this guy. I know where he lives. I'm gonna try to get to where he's going. And when we both get there, I want to be there with a little surprise for him. And that was the game that we played. And we just sort of batted each other around like that. And it worked, and that wasn't anything new. I mean, the folks, John Coltrane, Miles Davis, and their piano players, Will Evans, McCoy Tyner, those guys, Monk, for Christ's sake, those guys were, had been doing that for a long time. And it's fairly intellectual. Sometimes it can be too dry and too intellectual. And that's something that I've tried to avoid. It has to be kind of sexy as far as I'm concerned as well.
Absolutely.
And so that's been our MO, or the game that we've been playing for years, and it's worked well for us, and it keeps us amused and it keeps us dedicated, and we find fulfillment in it.
And damn, it's been a long time since we've been able to do it.
Yeah, I know. Holy shit.
Yeah, this is
definitely the longest I've been off since I was, 19 years old.
Yeah, me.
Maybe longer than that.
Yeah.
I was telling Oteil that I have a stand-up show. I haven't gone on stage once since March 12th, and I have to do an hour on Saturday at an outdoor comedy show. And I have no idea what the hell I don't remember any of my jokes. I feel like everything that I wrote with pre-COVID, it's like talking about I might as well be doing jokes about like the woolly mammoth. Like nothing even seems to be the same anymore, So I'm interested on like how to go and just pop that, fear bubble right away and just let it go and see what happens. Cause something really cool happened when I was young doing stand-up. An older comic saw me jotting in my notes. I had a set that didn't go well, and I came back and I was crossing things off and circling and, making notes. And a guy came over and goes, "These people are never going to be in a room together ever again. Like, just go up and have fun and they'll have fun with you." And this was one of those, like, that comes with time. I think that comes with age, and it gave me a freedom to kind of think like, okay, so the world's not going to end if I don't have if I have a bad, show, or I botch a punchline or something.
You go through that whole middle part of your life where you're busy learning how to be a kid again.
Absolutely. Yeah, that's right. That's Bob Dylan always said, I always love that line. Like I was so much older then, I'm younger than that now. Like, I love that line so much.
I think that was such a great gift of the acid test, though, because it was like there was no pressure to be good. And so, even though I still put pressure on myself when we do a Dead and Company show, it's like, hey, man, the only thing you want to do is like connect and hopefully find those moments. Like, you don't have to be whatever, and it's a hard thing to learn. I feel like it was built into the Grateful Dead, which is really, really a great gift,
Yeah, we just found it. It was the right chemistry. I knocked on back door of Dana Morgan Music back in the last day of 1963, and Jerry came to the door and hey, what's up? And that's what we found. We sat down and played that evening and decided that was too much fun to just walk away from. There might be something there to kick around for a while. And it turned out we were right about that. And that, like I say, that's what we found is that approach. We just, just get the ball rolling and see where it takes you.
Thank God you didn't overthink it later or like kill that. Like something then you knew that was the thing and held on to it and didn't I've seen it happen with a lot of bands. They get first record deal and go in the studio and everything just gets completely changed, Yeah,
for some reason we had limited faith in our ability to figure out what to do right when things were just sort of falling into place for us. Let's just let that happen.
I love those stories that I heard about. They wanted the record company wanted a record, and you're like, we need to go out to the desert and capture a half hour of still air, and then we need to go to the freeway and capture. And I just love that so much. It's like, we're just going to do it our way. You're going to have to build your machine around us. That's such a wonderful way to live.
Right, otherwise, we can't do what people want us to do with anything resembling any authority, or it wouldn't be us. It wouldn't be what people come to hear us for, and it wouldn't be what we showed up to provide anyway.
Yeah,
you gotta mean it.
In the other one, the Netflix documentary, Sammy Hagar says something super cool about you, about how just like, number 2, meaning rhythm, is like one of the most important jobs, but to do it with no ego, you really free yourself up for a lot of amazing experiences and a lot of talent. And that's just such an interesting way of encapsulating that like you did what you did like no one else. And it's just so wild that led to the freedom for everybody that you played with, regardless, from Jerry all the way up to now, that you've set that foundation for everyone to be able to kind of, you do you, and I'm here, and I'll get to know you, and we'll do this together and end in a fun spot.
Now, you want a bump? Here's a bump, and here's another one.
I love it. Yeah, life is volleyball.
Yeah. Some of my favorite records are when you hear like Jimmy Smith with Kenny Burrell, and when Jimmy Smith is soloing, I'll never forget this one time I was listening. Kenny Burrell's just comping behind him, just playing rhythm. He's supposed to be laying back, but it's so orchestral. It's so wide, diverse, rhythmically, harmonically. It's like, here's the string part behind her. Here's the horn stabs behind, and I thought, I didn't even listen to the solo. Like I was listening to what Kenny Burrell was playing, and I do all the time. Like I'll go back and listen again and just listen to the comps behind the soloist, because it's very orchestral and arrangement, even though it's improvised. And I really have felt that with Dead and Company and this music, that there's that same thing, because it's so rooted in improvisation. Even if it has a lot of structure, there's this architecture that gets built by like the wind,
right?
Making the sand fall into a castle,
And if you're playing a part, you want it to be inventive. You want it to be new, but at the same time, you're sort of tethered to what you're tethered to the theme that you stated to begin with, so that the guys can rely on you for that. So there's a balance there that it's fun. It's a huge juggling act.
Is it hard when, or probably just different? I was at Shoreline in 2000 seeing Fish. You came out and played with them in El Paso, West LA Fade Away, and a Fish song. When you're sitting in with another band that maybe only has one guitar player, or is it a different, is it just, playing catch with another, pitcher? Is it just learning how to adapt and react? Or is it after these many years, it's just, you're going to do you?
All the bands that I sit in with are so different that the chemistry is so different that there's really no pattern that I can distinguish. It's each one's just a new little adventure.
It's fun. Oteil and I were talking about the amazing energy and spirit of Fare Thee Well. Oteil, remember we were talking about that first night and how unbelievable it was. That was a moment. I was there. Oteil was there. Bob, you were there. To go back to Soldier Field and to do it there in such a special place. I mean, that must have been still something that you're vibrating from with that.
Oh yeah, it was a treat to see all those faces and stuff like that, and have everyone to come together and be one like that.
I got a question for you. As someone, like, I've had lots of mystical stuff happen to me in my life since I was really young. And I realized when we were talking to Melvin recently, both times that I saw you guys, like we were talking about, like when the band hits this thing and everybody knows it, and all of a sudden it's just like this huge thing and it's palpable. It's like you can almost touch it. It's tangible, But the first time I saw you guys, the only time I saw you with Jerry, you were playing in Vegas, and it was outdoors and just hot as hell. I just remember being so hot. And I was in the crowd and just like checking out the whole spectacle of it. And it was, it felt amazing and felt good. And then, but what struck me was when Mickey, it was in drums and space, Mickey hit the beam, and all of a sudden all this thunder happened and it just started pouring down rain. And, I'm looking around like, this is crazy, I was like, okay, that was definitely a thing. Well, then many, 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 many years, that was like 92 or 3 or something. And all these years later, first night of Fare Thee Well, me and my wife are sitting up there, and, and I know, like, I'm waiting for the moment, and then it's going great. And then the big rainbow comes out, and I was like, it happened again. I was like, look at my wife. And she knows about the first time. I was just like, what is it with that? I believe in mystical stuff. So I'm like, yeah, that's confirmation for me. But I guess my question to you is like, have you had that same kind of experience in your life where you're like, you get excited, but you take it for granted too? Like, it's like, there you go again,
It's I guess it's what's the word I'm looking for? It's not enabling, but it is a bit enabling. It's a little bit of confirmation of that you're following your footsteps and they're taking you in the right direction. That's the only way I can see it. When that kind of stuff happens. All right, okay, that lets me know that I'm doing my job.
Yeah, on the right path.
Do you have, looking back, do you have an era that you prefer to listen to and harken back on these days? If it's the early 60s or if it's the 70s days, or is it by keyboard player? Do you have a fondness to a certain era of Dead at the moment as a listener?
I think the late 80s, when Brent was still with us, I think our vocal blend was the strongest at that point, and our storytelling was probably at its peak. We were all pretty good storytellers, or Jerry and I were pretty good storytellers. Brent was as well. When we were singing, because singing is storytelling, and any art is first. Any art any artist of any stripe is first and foremost a storyteller, as far as I can see. And that was when that was the strongest, as from in my recollection.
I love the vocal blend back then.
Yeah, that's great. Yeah, I mean, the power really of just it's unbelievable, and the shakedown streams that you guys have lately, where we're able to watch the shows. It's amazing, but it's also very it's pain. I've been calling it a double-edged butter knife because it's like not actually dangerous, but it's kind of it hurts. But you look at these crowds, and it's like, God, I wish we were talking about the other day how that feeling, that millisecond when the house lights go down and the stage lights go on, and everybody has that collective. Everybody's bodies just lunge forward a little bit because we're there to, absorb the music and feel the music. And, I think about now, you could look down the aisle and see someone eyes closed having a moment, and you feel at home and you feel what they feel. And it's so important. And to not be able to feel that now, boy, it would be the best medicine for all of us if we were able to, experience some live music at this moment.
It'll come, I expect.
I sure hope so.
Yeah, we're hoping on that vaccine to get going.
Yeah,
I saw some good news on that front earlier today. So I guess I can't remember who it was, but somebody has figured out how to get antibodies into people.
Yeah, bring it on, man.
Yeah,
gosh,
pretty successful.
Well, I want to ask you one question. If you could tell kids today that are out there, protesting, trying to get things changed in this absolutely insane time, what advice would you give them? I know that's a big question and a loaded question.
Well, I got some notes here. And the first, this is the new manager of the San Francisco Giants. They're a fairly interesting ball club. Their new manager had a quote regarding people kneeling during the national anthem, and he said, "There's nothing more patriotic than peaceful protest." But keep it peaceful, because there are folks who would love nothing more than to make this into a civil war, basically. And it is a civil war, but their notion, their armaments are bullets, rubber bullets right now, tear gas, that kind of stuff. If you're on the side of the peaceful protest, your armament is ideas. And I got to say, we got them outgunned.
Yeah.
So the question you have to ask yourself is, do you want to win this confrontation, or do you just want to pop off? Keep cool, keep peaceful. Keep it cool, keep it peaceful. Don't play their game. Keep it peaceful. And stick with it. And because the Mahatma Gandhi, he wrote the playbook. He knew what he was up to. He was a man of intense peace, and he got that across to people that you will prevail. Yeah. The right thing will prevail. The right ideas will prevail, because that's the nature of evolution. But absolutely, you gotta toe the line. You gotta keep it peaceful. Don't take their bait. Don't rise to their bait.
A lot of people don't. I think there's other people that try to take advantage. But I love some of the new inventive ways. Did you see the naked lady that came out?
Yeah, that's
in Portland.
Inspired.
I was just like, wow. And the cops didn't even realize, if they had thought, they could have been like, oh, well, we can arrest her for indecent exposure and take her out of here. But, they were so thrown off It was totally peaceful.
Yeah,
it's just amazing.
Mothers now.
And they left after like 10 minutes. They just didn't even know what to do. And I was like, wow, if we could keep getting creative like that.
No, what a girl.
Yeah, really. I know.
Like, wow, that's
brave.
Unbelievable. Yeah.
This is something that you or I don't think could get away with. But
I ain't walking my black ass out there naked.
You don't want to see my hairy ass either on the trending on Twitter.
See the moms out there with their bicycle helmets on, and then the dads joined them after with their leaf blowers blowing away the tear gas. I just thought that was awesome. Leaf blowers against stormtroopers. But it was cool.
No, I'm firmly I'm with those folks. I gotta, I'm in an age group where I have to sort of, if they put if they bring troops to those troops to Oakland, I'm going to be hard pressed to stay home. And though I should be, because I'm not in the age bracket where you should be out and about. But
that's okay, man. We got this, Bob. We will fly your flag, bro.
I'm think hard about that because that's where I want to be. But like I say, we have the ideas, we have the feeling, we're right, we're correct. Our footsteps are headed the right direction. And their footsteps are headed no direction. Their heels are dug in, and so the river will move forward. The river will finally make it to the sea, and you just have to know that. Just go about what you have to do, but do it with peace.
Yeah. It's tough to do that. I mean, you look at the original Freedom Riders and stuff, I mean, they went through so much training. Yeah. They would have people spit on them and call them the N-word and dump milkshakes on top of their head and do all kinds of things, and they endured far worse than that. I mean, beatings and terrorism, but they stayed,
Then there's the footage of the plainclothes cops passing out the bricks at
God, I know
at riots and stuff like that. Don't rise to the bait.
Right.
Don't keep that brick up.
If
smart. Somebody's throwing that brick, it's either some hothead who's just there to pop off, or it's somebody who's been planted there to cause trouble so that they can maximize that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And don't do it. Don't go for it.
If we got to all be the naked lady, then maybe we'll have to, because that's the thing. It's like they're always going to use a peaceful protest, like you said, whether it's just some idiot that wants to pop off or whether it's an agent provocateur. And you have to stay, like in your thing.
Stay centered.
It's a hard thing when they're trying to make the chaos around you. But it's cool because we do have the videos. Everybody's got the video camera. They can see, hey, this is a white woman that was sitting down in a non-threatening position, and you just came and kicked the shit out of her. Old white guy you knocked over, he's bleeding out his ear. He was not, we could see. We could see, So that's the message, stay in there and stay peaceful.
Stay centered. Stay centered. And be good natured. The thing about the folks, the minions of oppression, is they're mean spirited, and they don't see themselves that way, of course, but they are. But they've got themselves talked into thinking that what's good enough for my granddad was good enough for me. It probably wasn't good enough for his granddad, but he hasn't thought that one through.
We don't use leeches anymore, right?
Right.
Yeah, it's true. It's
everyday things change. The only way that you can manage those kind of changes is to stay centered. digging your heels in is eventually not gonna work. It never has, and it never will.
Right. To be water and be fluid and adapt to the changes. I look at the past couple of months, whether it's the protests and the pandemic or various different times in my life that, whether good or bad, I am so unbelievably grateful that I was able to have your music as a soundtrack and your music as a hug when I needed it, and a best friend on the road alone, trying to get my career going as a stand-up, staying in garbage hotels, and all I have to do is throw on my headphones and I'm hanging out with my best buddies. So I just, from the very, very bottom of my heart, Bob, thank you so much for all of it. And I learned about real roots of music from you. I like to know what my favorite musicians are listening to and what inspired you. And I like to go deep in those channels. And I learned about the history of music because of you and Jerry and Phil and the drummers and everybody. So I couldn't say thank you enough for everything that you've given to me in my life. And it's an honor to be here chatting with you.
All right, great. Thank you.
And I want to thank you too, Bob, because you know what's funny? You guys' music is the soundtrack to my kid's life. Like every morning we go, and Gabi's like, fire! She wants to hear she loves Fire on the Mountain. And now Nigel's completely enthralled with the Blues for Allah version of Franklin's Tower. And that drum beat that Bill's playing, it's like this funky low-fi. And so every morning, sometimes I want to screenshot it and like send it to you guys because they're sick. You know, Nigel's in the back, roll away, and it's just really great. You know, it's given us a lot through a hard time, and I listen to old Dead stuff around here a lot.
You've done a lot.
It makes me feel better, and it makes my kids feel better. And watching them get off on it, it's priceless as we're going through all this. So thank you from me too, brother.
Well, thank you all. You know, on the subject of listening to stuff, I'm only listening to vinyl these days.
Cool.
I may get into high res. I may start dipping into high res digital, but right now, I just got to say I'm sort of evangelical about this. Vinyl, and to some degree, high res digital is so much easier on your brain, because if you listen to say a Dove Dove puts out a waveform when it's called, looks kind of like it's pretty much a sine wave, and it looks like this. And if you put a microphone on that and record it, the recording looks pretty much like this. And then you record it digitally and it looks like this. And each of those little samples is basically a postcard of that waveform that your ears hear, and that goes to your brain, and your brain has to struggle and it has to work to assemble that and make sense out of it. Oh yeah, that's supposed to sound like this. But the thing is, your brain doesn't want to work if it doesn't have to, and so it. If you were wearing an electrode hat and looking at your brain on a screen, your stress centers sort of would be lighting up. Whereas if you were listening to analog music, they wouldn't be.
Yeah.
So there's basically what I'm telling you is digital music induces stress, and if that doesn't need to be there, all you need to do is just break out your old vinyl collection, dust off your turntable, and get rocking.
Absolutely.
I love it. The digital takes one wave and segregates it into a million different little snapshots of a wave, and your brain's fragmented.
It's so true. And you know, it's so funny. I just acquired an uncle recently passed, and I acquired some albums of his and like first pressings of like Highway 61 and Rubber Soul. And, I mean, just some of the early Stones and, that crackle going into that music is just, you're like, yeah, this is the way it was supposed to be heard. Absolutely.
I even love the distortion, man. Like when Aretha would just hit a mic and it would just
right
under the pressure, but the distortion even sounded like a hug,
Yeah.
Even harmonic distortion, because she was overdriving tubes, and it's it's pleasing to the ear, whereas odd harmonic distortion is not pleasing to the ear. But that's a separate conversation.
That'll be volume 2 of our talk. Is there anything in particular, Bob, that you're listening to right now? Are you in the moment? Are you Well,
I just got my vinyl copy of Dylan's new record. I haven't heard it yet, so I'm going to pop that one on.
Awesome.
Quick.
It was what? I didn't hear it.
Bob Dylan's.
Oh, I got you.
Yeah.
Nice.
Awesome.
Well, man, thank you so much, Bob. We don't want to keep you all day, but this has been really great, man. And for the days between, we just couldn't ask for more. And glad it's a silver lining of the pandemic. We probably would never have caught you. You'd be out on the road somewhere.
I'd be throwing my comedy CD at you over a fence. Like, please listen. I'm a fan.
I'll look forward to doing that.
I'll send it to you. Absolutely. I will. Thank you so much. And thank you everybody for listening. And we'll be back next time.
All right.